cr101radio.com, podcasts, and more.
26. Effectual Calling. November the 22nd, 1954. Good morning, friends. One of the problems that bother us is our changeability. Even those who imagine themselves to be the steadiest of persons must reckon with a very persistent change of disposition and taste over a period of years. The songs which 10 years ago were to us the height of feeling and moved us most deeply, today may leave us cold. Our favourite foods of yesterday hardly rate attention now. Friends whom we could hardly live without, we meet today with a touch of embarrassment and an apology for not having seen them lately. The reason for all of this is simple. We are constantly changing, in some things for the better, in others for the worse, and in most instances, neither for better or for worse, but merely changing. Our lives are bound up in change. Time changes all things, and certainly we are no exception. Physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually, we change. We call those people steady, whose changes are gradual rather than sudden, but whatever we call them, they change. All this raises a very pertinent religious question. Since we are constantly changing, what if we change our faith? After all, if here as elsewhere we are subject to change, then a man who today believes he is a saved person can tomorrow forget his faith and be eternally lost. Today we may delight in scripture reading, in prayer and in worship, but tomorrow we may hate it. If we are changeable creatures, then even our faith can change and leave us without salvation. Now, there are some people who believe that this is so, that persons who today are saved may tomorrow be forever lost, because they changed their faith. They believe that there is no security in our faith and in our salvation until death overtakes us in the act of faith. Thus, a man never knows until he dies whether or not he will manage to hang on to his faith and be saved. Now, this seems a most logical point of view, but the people who hold it neglect two all-essential factors. First of all, they make faith into a work of man, whereby he qualifies himself for salvation, when, according to Scripture, faith is the gift of God. If our salvation depends on our act of faith or on anything we do, then salvation is essentially our work and depends basically on us. Then it is nothing more or less than our own doing that saves us. It is, in short, man who saves himself. But to say this is to deny the whole Christian teaching and belief and to nullify the meaning of Scripture. Second, faith is not a work or an act of man, but the gift of God. Because man is changeable, anything which depends on him is certain to be insecure. Salvation, therefore, is never secure, either in this life or the next, if it depends on man. Our salvation is secure precisely because it does not depend on us, but on the Lord. Our salvation cannot be rendered void, because no act of man can override an act of God. Man can alter what man does, but man cannot act against God, nor can he nullify the acts of God. Our salvation is therefore secure and inalienable, because it is the gift of God and not our own faith or work. This is the doctrine known as eternal security or effectual calling. Effectual calling means that God chooses us and calls us, justifies and adopts us, guides us into sanctification and receives us unto himself. The change which comes about with our regeneration is not a human change, which is in itself subject to change. It is an act of God, as the Lord declared. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you an heart of flesh, and I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. Ezekiel 36:26 and 27. Thus, our salvation is God working in and through us, as Paul stated it. It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Philippians 2:13. The Westminster Shorter Catechism summarizes it thus. Question 31. What is effectual calling? Answer. Effectual calling is the work of God's Spirit, whereby, convincing us of our sin and misery, enlightening our minds in the knowledge of Christ, and renewing our wills, he doth persuade and enable us to embrace Jesus Christ, freely offered to us in the gospel. Question 32. What benefits do they that are effectually called partake of in this life? Answer. They that are effectually called to do in this life partake of justification, adoption, and sanctification, and the several benefits which in this life do either accompany or flow from them.